We are live. Hi, sparklers. I hope you are basking in a restful weekend. I know we could all use just a little bit extra of that goodness. Some of us are looking for peace. Some of us just need more stillness. And I hope that you're finding a way to intentionally gift that to yourself. Each of us deserve that. Hey, Shayla, good to see you, girl. Why words heal? I guess I'd like to start out by saying that I don't think it's just a psychological thing. And I know just a psychological thing, it's like belittling the mind. And that's not the intent. I mean, when they say sticks and stones will break my bones, but words will never harm me. I think it's kind of the same, you know? Okay, let's start with some things that are familiar to us, and then we'll kind of get to some other stuff that you can evaluate for yourself. At the very least, even if it's not something where we believe it and own it hook, line, and sinker, perhaps we can learn to think a little kinder to ourselves or to be more aware as we interact with other people. Sometimes that's just half the battle, right? It's not about doing it any specific way. Maybe your best friend has commented on the presidential election, and you're very accepting that she has a somewhat different perspective than you. But every time she just says it, it has such acid, and you really have to fight to stuff the anxiety that you feel. Or maybe when your grandma or mom or mother-in-law or whoever it is, you've gained weight. I liked the other haircut better. Oh, that shade of highlight just doesn't do your skin quite justice. Do you know how to shop clothes for your body type? Those things, right? And you kind of go, oh, well, it's just that person trying to make me better than I am, and I don't agree, but they have really good taste, and you know, it just kind of hits you in a certain place, and after a while, causes you to recoil, right? But let's flip the script for a second, because this is about words that heal, right? So examples of the good. So like 5 years ago, I got diagnosed with Lyme, and I started for a little while to be a little bit more vocal about like things that I was working through as I was finding modalities to help. And I moved back to Texas, which is where I went to grade school as a little kid. And grade school was hard. I mean, school's always been hard for me. But like, it was brutal. Oh my goodness, little kids are so mean to each other. And I thought it was just in my head. Like, I thought I'm overly sensitive, I overthink things. And out of the blue one day, this girl from school who ran like a pony, like the fastest, fiercest, unbroken horse with like long, stringy blonde hair, and she was like stick thin, so she just like outran all of us. I was the third fastest girl. Thank you very much. I don't know. It was just, I always kind of got this, I can't explain it. And I always thought it was all in my head. And out of the blue, she messaged me. She said, "Courtney, I'm just so sorry. When we were little kids, I was really cruel to you." Who leads with that? I haven't seen her in years. I was so mean to you. And I was so jealous because you had a mommy and daddy, and I so desperately wanted the love that I saw that you had, and I had none. I'm so sorry. Please forgive me. I mean, there were a couple paragraphs written, and my heart, just reading it and taking my time absorbing the words. I had no idea that my childhood heart still carried any baggage from this. No clue. And totally out of left field landed this note in my Facebook inbox, and a heartfelt, sincere apology from one little girl to another 20 years later. The lightness, and even just reliving it right now gives me goosebumps, because words can be so healing. Have you ever experienced a time when maybe words were actually kind of instantly healing for you? Uh, it's remarkable and very memorable when it is. And it can happen on a small scale too. Like intentionally reaching out to a friend to say, hey, your face in mind and your laugh came to mind today, and stuff hasn't been so hot, I know, but I wanted you to know that I'm thinking about you. You're not alone. Just little things, you know? So, okay, kind of going a little bit deeper in this, a little bit applications. It's still kind of on the emotional side of things, but emotions, words, thoughts. We'll stay with like this familiar thing right now. So like 18 months ago, I wrote this little like ebook called Why Love Heals. Call it cathartic, I guess, from a girl who started a healing journey. And so, are you familiar with the chordae tendineae of the heart? The heartstrings, like they're little tendons, literally like, sorry, they're kind of ugly to look at. I won't make you look at it much longer. But they're so cool. The human heart is in fact neurologically wired with brain cells. What? And the fact opens up an entirely different conversational can of worms. So according to Deborah Rosman, PhD, president and CEO of HeartMath LLC, the heart contains a little brain in its own right. Yes, the human heart, in addition to its other functions, actually possesses a heart brain composed of about 40,000 neurons that can sense, feel, learn, and remember. The heart brain sends messages to the head brain about how the body feels and more. That's amazing. So we have our head and we have our head. It's not just about emotions when we talk about thinking with your heart. Kind of interesting. Research shows that the heart communicates to the brain in several major ways and acts independently on the cranial brain, reported Huffington Post. One important way the heart can speak to and influence the brain is when the heart is coherent, generating a stable sine wave-like pattern in its rhythms. When the heart rhythm is coherent, the body, including the brain, begins to experience all sorts of benefits, among them greater mental clarity and intuitive ability, including better decision making. Okay. So, then I talk about like what's broken heart syndrome and different modalities and how they talk about it. But in homeopathy, it kind of makes sense right now because it's a holistic beauty bar. So total person picture. That's, in my opinion, what it means. In homeopathy, broken heart syndrome also exists. Unlike Western medicine, common conversation on the topic where heart cells are temporarily non-functional, or the heart can easily recover from an atypical backward ballooning of the main ventricle, blah, 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 blah. Basically the tendineae like snap and they never grow back. So you've had like a ventricle that's like collapsed. They can actually die of a broken heart syndrome, when the strings actually physically break. And that's so interesting to me because, so like Lyme is supposed to be able to be fixed in 2 weeks because chronic Lyme doesn't really exist. And we'd done tons of antibiotics for like weeks at a time. We didn't know what we were treating. And every time I took stuff and then stopped, it'd get better for a little bit and worse. Better, worse, better, and then like thunked off and just couldn't really like do anything for a while. And when you're desperate, you'll try almost anything. Somebody help me. And one of those things was a homeopath's office, and they had this computer that can run scans on your hand, and it can sense again, this is like real science. Like if you have somebody's DNA, you can like find them via satellite and go, hey, nice to see you. Like this is a real thing, right? So, and like your brain has its own unique like thumbprint, same thing. So your body, if you're like being scanned by a computer device like a cradle you put your hand on, it can scan for emotions that are present in the body. And especially if there's like a microphone, it can hear frequency in the voice, and it can tell you the emotions and in what strengths that they are present as you speak. So if you've had something really, really bad happen specifically, or if there's like a specific thing that you're trying to get therapy on that day, like it makes it easier to work through. And in my case, it was kind of like being in a prayer closet where like, so the practitioner basically told me that they have a lot more success with people who actually have a greater being that they can dump their stuff and give it to. Like for anybody who's listening to this, like I totally respect if you don't believe that, and that's totally okay. You know, like hug a tree, give the bad juju to the tree, sit on the ground and go grounding, just let it seep into the earth. But for those who believe in somebody or something greater than you, there's just astronomical difference. And for me, I'd been going to this therapy for probably a couple of years, and you know, just it's like healing is like an onion. You pull back layers after layers, and you find this goo in the middle, and you can't really stop now. I can't really stop. And one day, the practitioner got this amazing idea because I'm a musician, and it's like it was my first love besides mom, dad, and baby Jesus, and so much a part of my identity. And the music had stopped. I was not happy. I didn't feel good. Sound was painful, light, painful, like spreading the sound of like butter over toast. Hurt my ears. The blinker of a car hurt my ears. Music was on pause. So she had me sing. And prior to that, every time I tried to sing, part of the truth of why I'd stopped is I'd start bawling and I couldn't stop. Something would grab my throat, the tightness around my throat, and I didn't want, and I heard it would get tight. Maybe part of the Lyme co-infection or like a thyroid imbalance. But quite frankly, I would just start bawling uncontrolled, and I couldn't stop, and I couldn't sing. And it wasn't even broken praise because the notes weren't coming out. I couldn't talk about peace, peace, wonderful peace. More love, more power, more of you in my life. How do you do this and have benefit while everything is about to start dry heaving? Because the pain and the brokenness, and you didn't feel that way a minute ago, but as soon as you open your mouth to express what it is that's something somewhere inside of you, it just hurts so bad and there are no words to express. Because so many of us haven't been taught the vocabulary to say. It's not like, Mommy, I cut my finger, or I feel like throwing up, or he pulled my hair, right? Like, how do you describe these things that have such nuance and dimensionality, and frankly, we don't want to feel them? The pain. And in this square box room on the other side of the clinic that had become my prayer room, where I would bring a person to mind, an instance that brought heartache, a time when I wanted something that wasn't as healthy for me as something else, and it was a coping mechanism. Whatever, and I would give it to somebody over and over and over again, do it again, more, fill me with something better, I'm so tired, I can't carry this, it's too heavy for me. We would slowly make progress. But today, I sang in my prayer closet, more like dry, bald, with the computer like scanning my hand. And then I wear like these goggles that like flash little lights so that your left and right brain are like connected at the same time for like full brain like togetherness with the mind and body. And at the end of the session, we'd cleared the deck. The sections of pie that were once black or red were either not yellow, maybe blue, or just a little smidgen piece of pie at the bottom. Somehow using words, and when I had no words, the ululation of the ugliness and giving it to somebody or something that can carry it, because I couldn't, and I didn't even have words for it, just a flood of, I don't want it. It cleared the deck. And to this day, they actually use it with gifted or kids who have like learning disabilities, like autism, or I know this is not the proper term anymore, but I don't know what it is, so please forgive me. Like Down syndrome, like kids that have trouble focusing, or they couldn't possibly, because they're too young sometimes, right? Like these kids that have been through traumatic things, they can sit there and sing Mary Had a Little Lamb, or Jesus Loves Me, or the alphabet song, or Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. And it works for them too. So, okay, so we know words matter. We know that these things matter for us. Ha ha ha. A few other little examples where, you know, healing, it's more than just, you know, taking your vitamins. German babies. The experiment that was conducted, really quick, total overview. Besides changing them and giving them their food, they didn't touch them. Almost all of the babies died. They weren't touched, they weren't coddled, they weren't loved. Going to bed angry. Did you know that if you go to bed angry at your spouse, it is stored in your long-term memory for you to, like, on loop, over and over and over and over, and you get to hear those words on loop and experience the painful words over and over again. So that's why forgiving and solution solving things before it gets put into your long-term memory is so important. Who figured? Dick Tibbets, Dr. Dick Tibbets, in his book Forgive to Live, did studies that found a direct correlation between forgiveness and heart health and heart attacks and all of that, which is kind of interesting because of course it has like the neurons and stuff in there. So of course, okay, so it's all connected, right? Okay, now get this for like wacky weird. We know Einstein is like brilliant, and E equals mc squared. Energy, mass, right? And probably somewhere out there in outer space it makes sense, or in a lab somewhere, but it applies to your body composition as well. I'll show you these pictures really quick. Top ones are pretty. The bottom ones are kind of, okay, I won't make you look anymore. I don't like looking at some of them. Dr. Masaru Emoto from the Yokohama Municipal University in, I believe it's Japan. He wrote a book called Messages from Water. And the experiment was that he would take water and do different things to it. So maybe he would expose it to a song, like one of the movements from the Four Seasons. And then Elvis Presley's Heartbreak Hotel. And maybe another one is like a famous Renaissance picture and allowing it to be over the face of the water. He would get children in different languages, no doubt, or no less, and they were in different languages, to say, I love you, peace, wisdom, I hate you, evil, love. And he would take these samples of water that were exposed to these things, you know, separate samples, obviously, put them under a microscope and get them just around freezing. And what he discovered when he looked under the microscope was that water has memory. Direct memory. So, and this is one of my favorite ones. This is the shape of water exposed to the word wisdom. Here's thank you. Kind of cool. It's like similar to wisdom, right? Compassion. And these other ones down here, oh, they're so ugly. I mean, they kind of just make you want to claw something, right? And like Elvis Presley's Heartbreak Hotel, you saw one of these crystals kind of broken in half. Water has memory, and they proved it. And it's so fascinating that because like when you're born, you're like, what is it? Practically 90% water. And as we get older, you know, maybe like 80 or 70%. And have you ever noticed how dry old people are? That's because as you get closer to death, not only does your body's biological frequency like start lowering, but you don't hold on to water and you need it. The thoughts that we have in our minds and the words that we use to describe other people, whether it's the presidential election or your child who won't shut up because they want a Snickers bar and I'm judging you. Or hearing a passive aggressive, isn't that nice? Or me perceiving it as passive aggressive molecularly changes the structure of water in my body, and we are mostly water. We are filled with water from head to toe. We are water organisms, in addition to like being electric currents. So what do we do when we need to clear the deck and restructure the water? It's hard work, because I can speak from personal experience that healing is not for sissies. If you've chosen a path toward healing, towards growing disruptively whole, toward a greater good that surely you were designed to live, you are one of the most courageous people on the face of the planet. Maybe there's a working parent who's coming home and they have to offload the owl from the day because there's COVID in the hospitals now and everybody's like on pins and needles and somebody's passive aggressive, and scream therapy works. Grab a pillow, keep it in your car. You have a chat with anybody who's going to be home at that time. Might have to train them a little bit so there's no oops because it's kind of vulnerable. And you just yell into the pillow while you're in the garage. Get it out and just allow it to be going to whatever in your mind. Allow to see it going out the car window and away and never coming back to you because it doesn't belong to you. It was never yours. You don't own it. You don't want to own it. You can do the same with a tree. I know it sounds really hokey, but they're similar in the way like you know how we breathe in oxygen and put out carbon dioxide, and they put off oxygen and take in carbon dioxide. They work kind of like that, similar like you know how like dogs know when somebody's sick? They'll come cuddle with you and then they'll go lay out on the ground and go grounding and like probably like put it in the grass and like the dirt. Trees will do that. Hug a tree. Pray while you're doing it if you have to, but it's one option. This one pops up for me often. Everyone, including me, is doing the best that they can. No, they're not. Everyone, including me, they are selfish. They know my need. They are not doing anything. Everyone, including me. They can choose to do no different right now, surely. Something about them is sick with who knows what thing that is keeping them from being the better person they were designed to be. And whether it's an oops or they're choosing not to, and surely that choice to not to is because they have this problem, and if the problem weren't there, maybe they would choose differently. But in this moment, for me right now, I choose healing, and everyone, including me, I'm doing the best. Everyone, including me, is doing the best that they can. If you can't hardly say it, kind of feels like you have an allergy, you might have to change it too. I am willing to become willing to be willing to believe that everyone, including me, is doing the best that they can, or come up with a slightly different thing. And, you know, I know it's so silly, but like, this is really why I want people to like touch their face and do their skin while they're doing this, because there's just something about, I don't know, I don't have the words yet for it, but something about touching my face and connecting my flesh to me and taking the time to stop and be present and inhabit myself. It's just I feel very whole because of it when I choose to actually give myself that time. Maybe I listen to music while I do it if my ears aren't hurting too bad. Maybe I think through things that I'm grateful for during the day. Another thing that I've thought about doing is like vocal exercises for people where like they can have praise or gratitude or give off the ow through 4-minute vocal things, and it'd be like self-betterment. I don't know what it is that you need for you. We're all so different. But I assure you that at this time when all of us see a world in need of healing, little choices for peace, little gestures for kindness, even if it's to ourselves, you can go a long way, and you're worth it. So, anyway, let's segue into some of this fun stuff. We did a fall self-care giveaway, and I am so excited. We have a couple of winners tonight who we want to identify. We have All Set Style. She gets the Kohl Liner bunny scrunchie. So we'll be sending that to you. Please send us a DM so that we know your mailing address. You're going to get a custom one from Holly. She's going to make it and ship it to you. And our other winner, which is the grand prize winner, is the 3-part winter glow kit from our Holiday Black label, and that is going to Shayla Lucky. So congratulations to you both. You both deserve it. I hope you know that you are very loved. You spark life, and you are worth the self-care. So tomorrow, Holly and I are going to try to go on live. We've had a really cool question about whether there's a way that you can tell if silk is real or not, and Holly gets like really nerdy when it comes to her fabrics, so like we're gonna probably go on and do like a video together. If you have any other questions, like be thinking about them, you can either DM them to us, or if you think you can pop on during the time, feel free to actually ask questions live too. It's whatever works for you. But I think you guys will really enjoy Holly. Again, anybody who's winning something, DM us your address so that we make sure to send you your goodies. And we love you guys bunches, and we'll see you tomorrow. Mwah!